Welcome everyone. This is Byron Morales and I'm here with Jeremy Hansen, and today we're going to present you guys with a webinar regarding clean reinstall on Windows. This is part of the series of our Up and Ready webinars. Jeremy, if you can hit the next slide, please. And this is our format. We're going to have the presenter is going to be Jeremy, and I'll be the moderator. And we have two parts to this presentation, the presentation and the question and answers. But you don't have to wait for the question and answers. We have a chat window on the bottom right-hand corner where you can enter your questions there. We ask that they be related to the topic that we're discussing. We do have other webinars. If the topic that you want to discuss, we suggest you follow us and view the webinars on our YouTube channel there on the link there as well. The PowerPoint slides will be on our box on that link there for you to use. Just remember that we have two more webinars coming up. The next one is May 19th. It's for the Autodesk Network Licensing. The next one is a tour of your Autodesk account on June 15th. So without further ado, let me introduce you to the expert elite, Jeremy Hansen. And he is the subject matter expert in regards to reinstall of the Autodesk software.
All right, thank you, Byron, and welcome again, everybody. Glad you all could join us. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dig on into reinstalling Autodesk software. So this is about a reinstall. So this is basically you've installed the software, you had to uninstall it at some point for whatever reason, something wasn't working right, or you just had to do an uninstall, and now you need to reinstall it. Now, sometimes in that situation, you can run into issues where perhaps the previous uninstall wasn't completely clean, and so when you're trying to do a reinstall, things are blocking stuff that just isn't going to allow you to do the reinstall without going in and cleaning things out. Usually, if you're starting from blank slate, if you have just like a new machine, it's pretty unlikely you're going to run into any install issues. Usually if it's a machine that's been around for a while, or if you've already done an install of Autodesk software, now you're doing the reinstall, that's when you're potentially going to run into these issues that we're going to be covering here. And usually these aren't steps that you're going to need to do for a reinstall. Normally you can just uninstall the software, reinstall it, and it works just fine. But this is going to cover times when it doesn't work just fine, how to get around those issues. And again, hopefully you won't need this, but if you do, this is going to come in handy. So what do we mean by a clean installation? So what we're looking for is for the installation to run with no errors. Obviously, you get an error and you're not going to get a good clean install on it. If it does install successfully, we want the product to actually start and license properly, so don't get any license errors when it comes up, and then the product actually opens and runs and works like it's supposed to. So that's the end goal that we're looking for through this process we're going to cover here. Now, what things can stop an install? There's things like competing programs or access, things in particular like antivirus software, firewalls potentially, depending on how you're doing the reinstall. Those could mess up the permissions, not allow the software to install successfully. And then prerequisites. By prerequisites, it's things that aren't actually Autodesk programs, but Autodesk software relies on it. So things like Microsoft, Visual C++, Microsoft.NET, those are the two main types of prerequisites that we're going to deal with here. Installation files and folders. So if you've done an uninstall and it can potentially leave some files or folders from the previous install on the computer, that could possibly make the software think it's already installed when you go to reinstall it, so it just plain won't let you install it. So you're going to want to get those cleaned out. Other things that can cause issues are user profile files. So similar to the installation files, these are ones that would get set up, the files would get set up within your Windows profile, so not necessarily within the installation folder itself, but under your user account. And those two registry keys there kind of show which folders we're talking about in terms of user profile folders. Usually things are going to be under C, users, and then your username, and then a folder called app data. So anything under there is really what we're referring to. And then residual registry keys can also cause issues when you're doing a reinstall. So if something hiccuped with the uninstall and it left registry keys from the previous install. Anything under HK local machine software, especially software/Autodesk, anything left in there from the product that you're trying to reinstall, or anything under classes, HK classes root installer products, anything like that in there, it could potentially make the software think it's already installed, or sometimes it won't even tell you that it thinks it's already installed. It'll just start doing the install and then it'll throw an error at you. So anything in there could potentially cause issues with the reinstall. So let's dig into some of these in a little more detail. As far as the competing programs and access. So access problems, they can be a result of any number of things really, usually antivirus software, anything that's gonna like prevent changes to your registry, anything that cleans the registry, any registry cleaners like CCleaner I know is a popular one that a lot of people use. Well, sometimes it'll go in and clean out things you don't want it to clean, so that can cause issues. Any sort of defenders or malware protecting programs, those could potentially block the software from being able to do a successful install. So things like that's what we're talking about with the competing programs. Anything that's going to alter the permissions to any of those folders in the list there, the software is going to need access to each one of those locations during the install process. So anything that blocks the permission, locks things down, that doesn't allow write permissions to any of those folders, that could potentially cause issues with the reinstall. And then even some of our own software, the BIM360 add-ins in particular, especially with our 2015 suites. We've only seen this affect suites. Oh, sorry, went ahead, hit the wrong button there. So we've only seen this issue affect suites, but basically what happens is if you've installed the suite already and one of the products in the suite comes with this BIM360 add-in, and then you update that BIM360 add-in, so say the Autodesk Application Manager, or now Autodesk Desktop App, the newer version of it, if that downloads and installs an update for the BIM360 add-in, then when you uninstall this suite, if you don't also uninstall this BIM360 add-in, when you go to reinstall the suite, it's going to pop up an error saying newer version of this software is already installed. So what that's meaning is the BIM360 add-in is already installed and it's been updated to a newer version than the one that the suite is trying to install. And at that point, the whole install for the suite is going to fail. It's going to back out everything that it's installed and it's just nothing's going to install right. So one thing you want to do is go in, make sure you uninstall any Autodesk BIM360 things in Control Panel after you or before you do the reinstall. Just safest to do that, so you don't have to worry about running into that particular issue. All right, let's move on to the next thing that might cause the problem with the reinstalls, or prerequisites. Prerequisites, again, they're not Autodesk products, so these could, and in fact often do, already exist on the computer when you go to install Autodesk software. If they don't exist, they will get installed with the Autodesk product that you install, but a lot of times they're already there. So things like Visual C++, things like Microsoft.NET. So those, they do get included with our installers. We have them under, if you download, say, the full installer for AutoCAD, it's going to extract the install files to see Autodesk AutoCAD 2016, 2017, whatever. And under that, there's a folder called Third Party, and then either x86 or x64, depending on whether you're doing a 32-bit or 64-bit version of the C++, and then a folder under there called BC Redis. So that has all the installers for the various versions of Visual C++ that are required for that particular product. So for 2015, it's going to require the 2008, 2010, and 2012 versions of Microsoft Visual C++. So all those installers for those versions come with each of the 2015 Autodesk products. And same with the Microsoft.NET framework. Whichever version that product that you're installing requires is going to have an installer for it included with the Autodesk product. Now with Microsoft.NET, that can be a little bit tricky if you're doing a reinstall and it fails on .NET. The reason being that with Windows 10, it comes with Microsoft .NET 4.6 included with Windows. It's kind of just an integral part of the operating system, so you can't actually do an uninstall. If you're on an earlier version of Windows, you could potentially go in and uninstall the .NET framework and then do the reinstall on it, and that can clear up any issues with the install failing on the .NET framework. Not really an option with Windows 10. It won't let you do the uninstall in Windows 10 for the .NET framework. So at that point, we probably have to go in and edit the setup INI so it skips the whole install of the .NET framework. But usually not going to be an issue. But in rare occasions, we would have to do something like that. All right. So moving on to the installation files and folders. So first thing you want to do is make sure that nothing's listed under control panel. So the normal way to uninstall your products, to go into control panel, programs and features, or control panel, uninstall uninstall a program, depending on how you have your control panel configured. So first thing to do is go in and uninstall things from there if they're listed. Sometimes they're not going to be listed there if you already did the uninstall and we're just dealing with remnants that were left behind. Second thing you can do is you can run the Autodesk Uninstall tool. So all the products from, I believe, 2014 and newer include the Autodesk Uninstall tool. It's just installed on the Start menu under All Programs, Autodesk. There'll be an Autodesk Uninstall tool. I think it's just called Uninstall tool in that it doesn't have Autodesk on the beginning of it. So you can run that, and that'll list all of the 2014 and newer products, Autodesk products you have installed on the computer. And it's pretty simple. You just check a few boxes, and that'll uninstall all of them that are on your system. So that's a pretty handy tool, whereas in Control Panel, you have to go in and uninstall one product at a time. So that can be really time-consuming, whereas with the Uninstall tool, you check the boxes, click Uninstall, walk away, and come back, and everything's uninstalled for you. So it's pretty nice. And then there's also a Microsoft Fix-It tool for uninstall problems, which is really handy. This thing will do a lot of the cleaning out of the registry entries that we're going to cover in a little bit here. This will, usually it'll go in and clear everything out automatically, so you have to go in and do anything manually. The downside to this tool is that it won't run on Windows 10. Microsoft, for some reason, has not updated that tool to work on Windows 10. So if you're running Windows 7, Windows 8, that's a great tool to use. But if you're running Windows 10, that's not really an option. There's some third-party uninstallers like IObit and some others that could potentially be helpful, but they're just not quite as handy as this Microsoft Fix-It tool. So usually on Windows 10, it comes down to manually searching through the registry and deleting out the registry keys that are keeping the software from being able to be reinstalled. And with 2013 and newer versions of AutoCAD, they all share the same folder. So not the AutoCAD and the verticals from that year, I should say, share the same base install folder. So if you have like AutoCAD 2015, Civil 3D 2015, and AutoCAD Mechanical 2015 installed, they're all going to use C program files, Autodesk AutoCAD 2015 as their main folder. And then the verticals are going to have subfolders within that one that have the files that are particular to each of those different verticals, but they're all going to share the same like acad.exe file and things like that. So if for some reason you had both AutoCAD and let's just use Civil 3D as an example, you have both of those installed from the same product year, same release year, and you want to just do an uninstall and reinstall of AutoCAD. So you do an uninstall of AutoCAD, and then when you're trying to do the reinstall, you run into issues and decide you need to do a clean uninstall of AutoCAD. Well, at that point, you're also down to a clean uninstall of Civil 3D. You can't do a clean uninstall of just vanilla AutoCAD without also doing the clean uninstall of any verticals, any AutoCAD verticals from the same release year, because they share that same folder. So just be aware of that if it does come down to going in and manually deleting any files that are left behind, that with AutoCAD you're going to have to do all the products, all the AutoCAD based products from a particular year if you have multiple ones of those installed. And then third-party plugins. these you need to be careful with because these have to be installed after the Autodesk product that their plugins for is installed. So if you're doing an uninstall and reinstall of the Autodesk product, you also need to do an uninstall and reinstall of the third-party plugin. So you'd uninstall, say you uninstall the plugin first and then uninstall the Autodesk product, reinstall the Autodesk product, and then reinstall the plugin at the end. It has to reconnect. Otherwise, if you just uninstall the Autodesk product and reinstall it, it won't, the plugin won't have gone through the connection process with the Autodesk product that it needs to. That happens during the install of the plugin. So just be aware of that if you happen to use any custom plugins from a third party. Just make sure you uninstall or reinstall those anytime you do the uninstall or reinstall of the Autodesk product as well. And then if you use any object enablers, make sure that you uninstall any of those before you reinstall whatever product that they're the object enabler for. I think that's all I wanted to say about those. All right, continuing on about installation files and folders. It's a good idea to create a backup of any of the remnants that you're going to be deleting here. I always like doing that just to be safe, just in case you break anything you didn't mean to break. It's safer to do a rename than it is to do a delete. Say you just, if you notice that the AutoCAD 2015 folder still exists under C Program Files Autodesk, just rename it to AutoCAD 2015 Old, something like that. So that way when you're doing the reinstall, the AutoCAD installer won't even recognize that folder as being anything related to AutoCAD. So it'll still create the whole new AutoCAD 2015 folder. But if you decide you need something out of that old AutoCAD 2015 folder, you have it there. You haven't deleted it and it's not gone. If you empty out your recycle bin, that could make it so you can't really recover the old one. So rename, safer than delete. And the one thing you probably aren't going to need to clear out is the base install file. So anything under C Autodesk, that's just the extracted installer for the AutoCAD products. So likely you can leave those alone. That's not something where you don't want to just do a search for Autodesk on your C drive and delete everything that it finds. Otherwise, I mean, it's not going to hurt anything if you delete those. You're just going to have to re-download the installer at that point. The only time when you'd really want to delete those is if you're trying to do the install and it's failing, saying like you can't find some files, some of the install files under the C Autodesk folder. Potentially you could have a corrupt installer at that point. So that's when you'd want to delete the files under C Autodesk and then re-download your installer. But otherwise, usually it's completely safe to leave those files alone because that's what you're going to use to reinstall the software most likely. And then as far as going through and deleting any files and folders that were left behind by the uninstall of the actual product, they're usually pretty clearly named. Anything that's under C Program Files Autodesk or sometimes C Program Files x86 Autodesk, those are going to be like the root folders that all the Autodesk products are going to be installed into. AutoCAD 2015 in particular, for example, will be C Program Files Autodesk AutoCAD 2015. And then it will also install some things under the C Program Data folder. Usually under C Program Data Autodesk, there's also some stuff under things like C Program Data, FlexNet, things like that for the licensing things. One thing that's tricky about that Program Data folder and about other folders here we'll see later on also is that it's hidden by default. So if you go into your C drive and you don't see that program data folder, there's a couple of ways you can get to it. You can either just manually type in C program data up in the address bar, or there's also a way you can go into the options for Windows Explorer or File Explorer in Windows 10 and make it show the files that are hidden on there so you can see that C program data folder, and that link there has some instructions for how you do that just on Microsoft's site. So we'll have another link to the slide deck at the end of the presentation here. So if you didn't get it at the beginning, you can get the link to it at the end here, so you can have all the links to these tools and sites that we have on here. And then also most of our Autodesk products are going to install some things under C program files, common files, Autodesk shared. So that's another good place to look when you're doing the clearing out any remnants of the previous install before doing your reinstall. And continuing on, this is for the user profile files and folders. So these are the ones that are under those the registry keys mentioned earlier. But basically, most of these are going to be under C users, your username, and then app data. And again, these are usually pretty clearly named. It's going to have something, like they'll mostly be under an Autodesk folder. Sometimes it'll just have like the name of the product itself. It won't be necessarily right under the Autodesk folder, but usually it's pretty clear if it's related to whatever product you're trying to do the reinstall on. And again, so that app data, like the program data folder earlier, it's another hidden folder. So if you go under C users and then your username and you don't see a folder in there called app data, you can just type it in manually up in the address bar or just go in and change the setting to show the hidden files and folders. Another way to get there, you can use the wildcard of %user profile %/app data. That'll get you in there also. So there's things that are under the app data folder. There's a local folder and there's a roaming folder. Sometimes there's other folders as well, but those are the two that the Autodesk software is going to install things under. So if you go into to the app data local folder, you'll likely see a folder in there called Autodesk. That's where most of our products are going to stick their install files. So you can just go in there and clear those out. Sometimes directly under that local folder, there will be other folders. Some of our products will put folders directly there that are related to them. So just kind of glance through that folder, see if you see any related to the product that you're trying to do the reinstall of. But usually it's going to be under that local folder. And then also the app data roaming folder. Again, mostly under the Autodesk folder and under that one, but could potentially have some products that will put folders directly under the roaming folder. So just kind of be aware of that. Do a quick glance through the folders that are underneath that roaming folder. Just make sure there aren't any related to the product that you're trying to reinstall. And then the licensing files. If you have a standalone product, you're going to probably have to do a reactivation of it when we're doing the clean uninstall here, because we're going to delete these licensing files, and that's what it's going to look for to see if the product's already been activated. But a lot of times, if you do an uninstall and reinstall, you're going to want to delete these licensing files just to make sure you have a clean slate that you're starting from. And the name of the file is going to start with ADSK Flex, so that's kind of the thing you're going to look for here. Again, this is going to be in a hidden folder. It's under C Program Data FlexNet. So if you've gotten this far and still haven't changed the setting to show hidden files and folders, you can either type in C Program Data FlexNet manually or just change that setting for show hidden files and folders. If you happen to still be running Windows XP, it's under Documents and Settings, All Users, Application Data FlexNet, but likely there aren't too many people still running Windows XP. But Windows 7, 8, and 10 is going to be C Program Data FlexNet. So under that folder, just look for anything that starts with ADSK Flex. Usually it'll be 2 or maybe 3 files under there that start with that. Don't just willy-nilly delete any file that you find in there without making sure that it starts with ADSK Flex, because some other companies put licensing files in there also, Adobe being one of them. So if you just go in and delete everything, you could kill your activation for Adobe Acrobat or whatever Adobe product you have. So make sure you double check and just delete the ADSK Flex ones from under there. And again, when you do the reinstall and first launch, it's going to need to do the activation again because it doesn't have that the ADSK Flex file in there. So these are called trusted storage files is what they are. So just kind of contains the licensing information for your Autodesk software. And these do contain licensing information for all of the Autodesk products on your computer. So if you have multiple Autodesk products installed, but you're just doing a clean uninstall of one of them and you're getting a licensing error and determine that you do need to delete this ADSK Flex file, well, that means that all the other Autodesk products on the system are also going to need to be reactivated. So each time you launch those, they're going to need to go through the activation process as well. And then if you're using one of the newer desktop subscription licenses, there's a couple other places where you need to delete some licensing files as well. There's one that's going to be under the user profile, app data, roaming, Autodesk ADUT, you can just delete that whole folder. That's just going to contain stuff for Autodesk. So unlike the ADSK Flex files up in that FlexNet folder, this is only Autodesk related stuff. So you can just delete that whole folder if you want to. And then there's a similar one that's under C, Program Data, Autodesk, another ADUT folder there that you can delete. And then here's a new one for 2017 products. So this uses kind of a new licensing method called Click. And so it has a different folder from the older desktop subscription licensing that we had, or in addition to the older desktop subscription. So that's under C, Program Data, Autodesk, CLM. You can either just delete that whole CLM folder, or under that there's an LGS folder, and you can just delete. I keep saying delete, but rename. Rename is safer than delete. So go in and rename these folders, and that'll get those things cleared out. So next time you do the install, it'll just start from a clean slate again. That's really kind of what we're looking for, starting from with a clean slate. And there's one file that you potentially may have to delete or rename. That's the PIT file. So product information table is what that PIT stands for. And you only want to do this in one of two circumstances. Either you're removing all of the Autodesk products on the computer, in which case it's safe to delete this file because it's going to get recreated when you reinstall a Autodesk product, or if you've determined that that product information.pit file is corrupt. Likely wouldn't be something you would necessarily determine without assistance from one of us at Autodesk, because there's some logs you'd have to go in and look at, and it would tell you that there's corruption in the PIT file or something like that. So unless you're doing a complete uninstall of Autodesk products on the system, you'd normally not want to touch this file. The reason being, that file contains installation information for all of the Autodesk products on the computer. So if that file gets deleted, renamed, corrupted, whatever, it's going to require a complete uninstall of all of the Autodesk products on the computer, and then a reinstall of them. So that's a very important file to not mess with unless you know what you're doing. You don't have any option but to delete that file or rename that file, because you're down to a complete reinstall of everything at that point. So that file on Windows 7, 8, and 10, which is probably what most people are going to be using, is under C, Program Data, Autodesk, ADLM. That folder is also where the log file is going to be that would tell you that that product information.pit file is corrupt. Under that folder, you're going to see ADLM logs for each of the standalone, actually each of the Autodesk products you have installed. Basically, you're going to have ADLM logs in there, and those are just text files. So you can open those up, and if you see any stuff about corrupt PIT file or something missing from the PIT file, that's a pretty good indication that there's something wrong with that product information.pit file, and you're likely going to need to do an uninstall and delete that product information file, and then reinstall. But at that point, I would probably encourage you to contact Autodesk support and see if there's anything else we can do short of doing that, because uninstall and reinstall is not always super fun to do. If you happen to be on Windows XP, again, it's going to be under C, Documents and Settings, All Users, Application Data, FlexNet. Again, I don't imagine too many people running Windows XP anymore. And then the licensing technology. So this is kind of the when you launch the software and it says checking license, this is where the files that do that license checking live. That's going to be under C, Program Files, Common Files, Autodesk Shared, ADLM. And this stuff does get left behind when you uninstall the Autodesk product. Normally, it's pretty rare that you're going to run into any issues with any of the files under that folder. So it's usually safe, not to do anything with those, even if you're doing a clean uninstall, reinstall. Usually safe not to mess with those, but if you're getting any licensing issues, then that would be the time where you'd want to go in and clear out the files in that folder also, or just rename that folder before you do the reinstall. Because if it detects that it's already there during the install, it's not going to touch it. If it looks for it and there's nothing there, if you rename the folder so it can't tell that it's there, then it's going to reinstall that stuff. So usually not necessary to touch, but occasionally you're going to need to do that. And then registry keys. So this is something that I hope you don't ever have to do, go in and clean out registry keys manually. That's why it's really nice to use that Microsoft Fix-It tool. But if you're on Windows 10, it's not an option. But sometimes you do have to go in and manually delete any registry keys that are left behind by the product uninstall. There's a few places you're going to want to search for that. If you go under, one of the main ones is this HKey classes root /installer /products. And if you've never gone in and messed with the registry before, there's all kinds of fun stuff. We'll actually have a screenshot of it on the next slide here so you can see just a small snippet of where you're going to find in the registry. But basically you run regedit, R-E-G-E-D-I-T, just type that in the search box there on the start menu. That'll bring up the registry editor. And then you navigate down to each of these keys. So if you go to that HKey classes root /installer /products, I usually just click on the actual products key itself and then do a find. You can go up to edit, find, and then search for whatever the name of the product is that you're going to uninstall. So say you're going to uninstall AutoCAD 2016. And the reason you'd want to clear this out is if when you go to the reinstall, if it thinks it's already installed. So that's when you're going to have to come in here and clear out these registry keys so it realizes, oh, well, nope, it's not installed after all. So say you're going to do AutoCAD 2016. So just go to that products key, click on it, do a search, just type in AutoCAD 2016. And so anything that it finds under that products key that's got AutoCAD 2016 in it, that's what you're going to want to remove. Same with really all the rest of these. HKey current user software. I'd even add /Autodesk on there because that's usually where it's going to be. It's going to be under Autodesk. So just search for AutoCAD under that. Anything related to AutoCAD under the Autodesk key. And similarly, HKey local machine software. Microsoft Windows current version installer user data S-1-5-18/products. Yeah, it gets, some of these keys get pretty deep in there. And then HKey local machine software classes installer products. Usually if you've cleared the stuff out from HKey classes root /installer /products, that will also remove it from this HKey local machine /software /classes /installer /products. They're kind of linked, but a good idea to search in there also just to make sure that nothing's lingering under that particular key. And then finally, HKey local machine /software /Microsoft /Windows /current version /uninstall. Don't worry, we'll have a link to an article at the end here. They'll list all these things, so don't bother writing all this stuff down or anything. So that contains the uninstall information for the product. So it's not quite as important to clear that out in terms of if there's still stuff left for that particular product under the uninstall key. It's not going to prevent you from reinstalling. It's not going to really look there and see anything there that's going to make it think that the product's still installed. But a good idea to clear things out of there just so you're don't have any remnants from the previous install. Just start clean. And so there's usually going to be a couple of keys for each product. There's going to be the primary key for the main product itself, so AutoCAD 2016, sticking with that as an example. And then there'll also be a key for the language pack. So even if you install it in English, English still counts as a language pack in terms of how the installer works. So there'll be a key for main AutoCAD 2016 itself, and then a key for AutoCAD 2016 language pack. And sometimes, especially with AutoCAD-based things, sometimes there can be a third one for the product-specific pack. And like I said, the Microsoft Fix-It tool will usually clean out whatever needs to be cleaned out, in order to do the reinstall, in order for it to realize that the software is not already installed there. But it doesn't work on Windows 10. So lucky Windows 10 people get to come in here and do this manual deletion. Even sometimes Fix-It won't find the keys that it needs to delete, and we have to come in and still do manual deletion of registry keys even after running that Fix-It tool. So it's not just Windows 10 people that get to come in here and do the manual deletion. It's Windows 7, Windows 8 people also. So here's that screenshot I was mentioning. So in this particular case, I know this is really small, so it's going to be kind of hard for you to see most likely. But on the left side, it's the main AutoCAD 2015 program. I don't know if you can see it. It's like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th line down on the right side of that left screenshot. You see where it has the display name is AutoCAD 2015-English. This may actually be the product specific pack. I don't think it says in here for sure because I think the main AutoCAD 2015 just says AutoCAD 2015, and I think the product specific pack says -English on it. Anyway, if you look over at the right screenshot, that shows it's AutoCAD 2015 language pack -English. So the one on the right side is for language pack. The one on the left side is for either the main AutoCAD program or the product specific pack. I can't remember for sure which one that is, but there's kind of an example of where there's the primary key and then there's the language pack key. So you need to make sure that just because you do a search under the in this case it's the HQ local machine software, Microsoft Windows current version installer, user data, all that stuff. Just because you find one result under there, that doesn't mean you're done. Can repeat the search. So for this particular example here, if you do a search for AutoCAD 2015, keep repeating the search until you get no more results. Don't just find the first one, delete it, and think you're good. There's a lot of times going to be multiple keys under here that you're going to need to delete. All right, that's kind of basically it. That's yeah, that was a lot. It's not a fun process to go through, but it is definitely possible to get the things cleaned out if the regular uninstall process doesn't do it. So, kind of in summary, first of all, back up your working files, especially if you're like you have any custom profiles, things like that. Make sure you back those up when you do the uninstall and reinstall. It under the vast majority of circumstances will not keep any of those customized settings. So back up those. Renames better than delete. At least until you get the software reinstalled and confirmed that it's working like you want it to. Then you can go in and clear out, delete those folders that you renamed. But I like doing a rename when you're just doing the clean out process initially. Uninstall the program first through control panel. Don't just jump right into the deleting registry keys, deleting files and folders from the hard drive. Make sure you've gone through the standard uninstall process, either in control panel or using that Autodesk uninstall tool, either one of those. So uninstall any third-party plugins and uninstall the prerequisites. I kind of skipped over that whole uninstall the prerequisites part. Not always required to uninstall the prerequisites, but usually if you launch an installer and like it fails within a few seconds of the actual install process running, that's going to be one of those prerequisites. So a lot of times a good idea to go in and delete those Microsoft C++ items, delete the Microsoft.NET if that's an option if you're not on Windows 10. I think Windows 8.1 comes with .NET integrated also. But if you're on an earlier version of Windows, go in and clear out the Microsoft.NET because those will get reinstalled with the Autodesk product. Delete any residuals inside any of those folders. So if there's anything left behind under any of those folders that are listed there, just go ahead and delete or rename them, and that will clear out any of those folders that might be making the installer think it's still installed. Delete the licensing files if needed. Those are the ones that are under C program data, FlexNet, C program data, Autodesk, ADUT, things like that, or ADUT. And then as a last resort, if all else fails, you could go in and do the manual cleanup in the Windows registry. Not fun digging through the registry, but sometimes necessary. And just a few extra pieces of information here. So here's the link that's to the Microsoft Fix-It tool that I've been mentioning. And then we also have a posting that kind of covers really all this whole stuff we've done here, that remove all products posting. That's a really great one if you need to do a complete clean uninstall of all the Autodesk software on your computer, and so you can do a nice clean reinstall of things. Let's have a link to an article where it shows how to filter products in the control panel list of all the products that you have installed. There's ways that you can filter that down just so you can see like just the Autodesk products specifically, or if you're going to do AutoCAD, just show the AutoCAD products, things like that. So that kind of shows how to do that, so you're not digging through a list of potentially dozens or maybe even hundreds if you have that many applications installed on your computer, to try to find the one that you want to get cleared out of there. filtering makes it a little easier to narrow in on what you're actually wanting to uninstall. And then if you need to re-download the actual installer for the software, we have a link to our virtual agent. That's a place where we have downloads available for the installers for most of our products. There's a few that aren't available there, but the vast majority of our products are available through that virtual agent. So on the next slide here, up at the top, you can see the link to the slide deck again there. So if you go to that link, it's actually available right now. You can go up there and download the slide deck, so you have all the steps, and especially in particular those links to the various articles and tools there. So at this point, I will turn things over to Byron for our question and answer session.
Okay, everyone, if you have any questions, please go ahead and enter them on the questions box on the bottom right-hand corner. I think, Jeremy, if you take a look through some of those questions, most of them have been answered. But if you want to look through any of those and maybe you know, put one or two that you can share with the rest of the with the team. Let's see. There's one. How do you find the product key, the registry key for example, a language pack?
Well, again, for the language pack, I wouldn't necessarily search for the language pack in particular. If you just search for the name of the product, it's going to pull up the language pack. So if you, in that earlier example, if you just search for AutoCAD 2015, it will also pull up the AutoCAD 2015 language pack. So that's really my suggestion. It's really going to be hard unless you know the specific wording of the display name for the product for the language pack. It's going to be really hard just to guess that. You know, different products have different naming conventions for the language pack. So just search for the you know, go to the root of each of those keys that I was showing there, and just search for the name of the product. That's going to pull up the language pack. That's going to pull up, in the case of AutoCAD-based products, that'll pull up the product-specific pack, you know, if it has it, and also the main program itself. So. I'm trying to look through the questions here. Is there any other good ones to cover? Did any jump out at you, Byron?
No, we're answering most of them. Let's see. There's a lot of questions about the uninstall tool, the Microsoft Fix-It. As Jeremy said, it works fine on Windows 7 and Windows 8. We highly recommend it, but unfortunately it does not work on Windows 10. For Windows 10, some of our colleagues use IObit Uninstaller, right, Jeremy?
Yeah, IObit is one. I haven't had as much success with that as with the Microsoft one. The Microsoft one is just so handy. It's really nice to use. The one thing I don't love about the Microsoft one is that, similar to a control panel, you can only install one thing at a time. But unlike control panel, it splits things up into each individual component. So say for like AutoCAD, you have the main AutoCAD program. You have another line for the product specific pack, which is usually actually called exactly the same thing as the main program. So it's a little bit confusing to know which one's which, but you're clearing them all out, so it doesn't really matter too much. And then it has a third one for the language pack. So you're having to run the tool 3 separate times just to uninstall, you know, one AutoCAD thing. So that's a little bit of a pain, but it's great because it clears out all of the registry keys that the installer is going to look for to see whether the product's actually installed or not. And so it saves you a lot of time not having to go in and manually delete those. But again, Microsoft, in their infinite wisdom, has not yet updated it to work on Windows 10. I hope it's in their plans. I don't really know, but I hope they're planning on updating it so it works with Windows 10, because I don't know of any equivalent tool under Windows 10. So it'd be really nice if they can get that working on Windows 10. But it's up to Microsoft.
Thank you, Jeremy. So here's another question. Clean reinstall is the same thing as formatting the PC. No, it's not. The clean reinstall, basically we're helping you uninstall all the Autodesk items from your computer. Registry entries, program files, program folders, so you can have a clean reinstall of the Autodesk software, but we're not touching the operating system or the prerequisites. We're only the Autodesk software. In some cases where a clean reinstall does not help, we have other troubleshooting steps to help you install the software. And reformatting the pieces are the last resort when we cannot figure out what the problem may be, whether it's permissions, a third-party software, or any other conflicts. That is the only time when we ask you, or the only solution is be to format the PC. But that is the last resort. Here's another question. While you uninstall Maya, should you also uninstall Mental Rate plugin as well? If you're having when you uninstall the Autodesk software, there's an underlying issue of why you're uninstalling the software. And more likely is because it's not performing to your satisfaction. So leaving any plugins behind, you're really not doing a clean uninstall of the software. So that's why we have this webinar to show you how to properly uninstall all the Autodesk software from the computer so you have a clean slate and start fresh. And that way you can start to narrow down what the issue is, if it's a conflict with another software or with your graphics card driver or something else. So we highly recommend that if you, for troubleshooting purposes and for performance issues, you're having problems and you want to uninstall the software, to do a complete uninstall. That way you start with a blank slate and a clean white piece of paper when you reinstall.
Yep, absolutely. And here's another question we can cover. Can you install Autodesk software on a secondary drive? For example, if you're running Windows on a small SSD, solid-state drive, and need to save space. Yes, absolutely. You can definitely install those on a secondary drive. As a matter of fact, on my system that I'm currently on, I have AutoCAD 2016 installed on my secondary drive because just like with that question there, my C drive is a solid state and it's fairly small, so I have a second drive that's just a regular old magnetic drive and have AutoCAD installed on there. So when you're doing the install on the screen immediately after where you entered the serial number and product key, it's going to have a list of whatever products are going to be installed, and then at the bottom is the install button, and then once you hit that, it actually does the actual install process. But the bottom left of that screen, it's got the installation path, and that's where you can point it to the different drive. The one exception to that is if you already have AutoCAD or an AutoCAD vertical from a particular release year installed on the computer, it's going to force the install of any other AutoCAD verticals, or the main AutoCAD that you just have vertical installed from that same release year to install to that same location, so that same drive. It's going to fill that into the installation path, and it won't let you change it. There's actually a registry key that gets set the first time you install an AutoCAD based product from a particular release year. And so the installer is going to see that registry key that shows the AutoCAD install path, and it's going to force that for any future installs of any AutoCAD-based products from that same release year. But other than that, absolutely, you can definitely install it to the secondary drive if you want to.
And here's another question regarding Maya. After the uninstall of Maya, all service packs should be reinstalled. So I'm assuming that you mean that after you uninstall Maya, you reinstall Maya. Yes, I think you should install one service pack at a time, test out the software, make sure it's working to your satisfaction before you install the next service pack, and so on, until you are fully updated and your software is working properly.
I see a few questions that are somewhat outside of the scope here, but let's cover one here in particular. There's a how do we overcome problems with installation issue with this error code, DirectX-runtime-failed-1619. That actually is kind of a red herring. It's not really the error that's causing the install to fail. I'm assuming you're getting that out of the setup log, and there's a few different sections in that setup log, and usually the part where it gives the error about DirectX is the rollback section. So what happens is the setup's going along, is working fine, and then it hits some error that causes the install to fail. Once it does that, that's the actual error that's causing the install failure. After it hits that error, it rolls back all the stuff that it just installed. So then you'll see several lines below that where it's got the word rollback in the line somewhere, and it's rolling back the stuff that it just installed. Well, it tries to roll back things like the Visual C++ or the .NET and then DirectX stuff. Well, usually, like with DirectX, that's it's your video, your graphics driver that controls that part of things. And so there's nothing for it to roll back to, really, and it reports that as an error. So it'll throw that 1619 error there, but that's the error on the rollback of things. That's not the actual error that caused the install to fail. So what you want to do is look for any lines that have rollback in them, and look just above the first one that has rollback, and that's going to be the actual error that's causing the install failure. So that DirectX runtime failed 1619. I don't think I've ever seen that as being the actual error that is causing the install to fail. So just it's kind of a tricky way that the setup log shows things there. Just because it says it's an error doesn't mean that's what's causing it to fail. You need to make sure it's not the rollback that's throwing that error out there.
And to add to that, you know, the 1603, 1619 errors are very generic, and more likely or not, when we see those errors, the first thing we're gonna ask you is, where are you installing from? Where is your installation file? And do you download it from our website? Do you hit install now? You hit download now? How was it originally being installed to your computer? We highly recommend you use the browser download method or direct download links from us. That way it ensures that you have the installation file directly on your computer. Once you have the file directly installed, the installation file on your computer, you have all the components, all the prerequisites ready to install there. Sometimes when you download from our website, it doesn't get pushed to your computer, and it will give you some of those error messages.
And again, if you want the slide deck, it's that link up at the top of the slide that's on here that's currently displaying. So the https://autodesk.box.com/b/APEC up and ready IQ4. So that's where you can go and download this presentation. And there's a question about how can we confirm that the Autodesk product is uninstalled successfully from the registry as well as the program list. Well, from the program list, it's pretty easy because you just go into Control Panel and look at your list of programs, and if it's not listed there, well, you're good as far as that goes. As far as the registry, it's unfortunately there's not really any way to know for sure that you got every single thing cleared out of there, and likely you're probably not going to get every single key that the product put in there cleared out. Really what we're looking for is getting enough of them, or getting the important ones cleared out so that it lets you do the reinstall of it. And those are going to be the ones that are under the keys that we've covered here. So really the best option is search for the name of the product under those keys. If you're not getting any more results, you've likely cleared out everything that you need to in order to allow you to have a successful reinstall. But there's no, unless you're using, there are some third-party products that kind of keep a list of all the various registry keys and files and everything that gets added or changed by an installer. But short of that, there's no list anywhere that you can just kind of look through to see everything that was added or changed by the installer, and then go through each individual one and make sure that those are cleared out from the registry. So it's really just go into those keys that we covered and delete everything that has the name of the product in it, and that should be good for the reinstall at that point.
Karan, he's got a question about if there's a solution that states your computer is low on memory while working on Maya 2016. I would highly recommend that you look at the system requirements, make sure that you have at least meeting the minimum system requirements to work for Maya to work properly on your computer. You may need to add more memory to your computer if that's the case, or use a different computer to do your rendering, as those is the most bandwidth hog intensive on the memory. So check the system requirements will be my first suggestion on that one.
And assuming you meet the system requirements, that's probably something where you'd want to open a support case and have one of the Autodesk product support people troubleshoot that specifically, because yeah, I've seen a few articles about that, and there can be a number of causes for that particular error. So that's something where we'd want to get in and do some actual specific troubleshooting on that system. There's a question about updating to Windows 10. Well, earlier versions like Revit 2013, Revit 2015, Revit 2016 still be compatible with Windows 10. Most of our, actually I think pretty much all of our 2016 products are, most of our 2015 products are compatible with Windows 10. With service packs, you'd want to update to the latest service pack on anything like 2015 or older. Looks like Byron's actually answering that also. And then with 2013, probably not. I mean, you can try it, but it's not officially supported on Windows 10. So it's one of those try it and see how it works kind of things. But anything that's 2013 or older, for the most part, isn't going to have been updated to be compatible with Windows 10. It still may work, but it's not going to have official support. And so it's kind of a try at your own risk kind of thing. It may work, it may not. We can't really guarantee anything.
Here's another question. Does the Autodesk Application Manager affect the installation? Does Autodesk Application Manager affect the reinstallation process every time it pops up and installation gets slower? So just like the previous question about Maya and the Mental Ray plugin, if you uninstall the Autodesk software on the computer, we suggest that you uninstall all the Autodesk software from the computer, including the Autodesk Application Manager. And that means you have to stop the servers first on the Task Manager, and then go ahead and uninstall the Autodesk software. Now, Jeremy, did you touch a little bit on the uninstall tool that the Autodesk software has included?
Yeah, I did, and that actually does not touch the application manager. So if you use the Autodesk uninstall tool, you'll have to go in and uninstall the application manager separately. It's not going to get uninstalled by that uninstall tool. We're coming up to the end of our hour here. Let's just do a couple other ones real quick before we shut things down here. So here's one. Can we install two different versions on a single desktop? Yes, absolutely. You can have, say, AutoCAD 2016, AutoCAD 2017, both installed on the same system. They're designed to coexist without interfering with each other. So definitely you can have two different versions on a single desktop. And then just one more here real quick. Do I need to uninstall the software if we change the user? So for example, a desktop subscription license. You actually do not need to do an uninstall the software. If you change to a different user on Windows, that's actually the licensing files get stored under that particular user's profile. So when they go to launch the product, it'll just prompt them with that subscription login, and they'll log in with their own Autodesk account at that point. So there's no need to do an uninstall and reinstall of the software just because you're switching to a different user on that computer. It looks like we're up against the top of the hour. Do you have any last words, Byron?
No, thank you for coming, and we look forward to seeing you guys again on May 19th.
All right, yep, thanks again, everyone, and I hope you all have a nice rest of your day.